weeks ago I had the chance to go down to Silverstone to drive the Mercedes AMG GTS and the A45 AMG. I was very excited. The idea of hooning around a track for a day seemed like quite good fun. So first things first, I arrived and I was given a very fetching helmet with an open face that could have made me look like I'd had my face stuck in a lift, and I was also given a balaclava that made me look even more ridiculous. As I got into the GTS, the interior is really smart. If you ever get into like a real high quality car like a Porsche 911 for example, or a GTS, everything feels very solid. It's a very difficult thing to describe, but it just feels solid, very well put together. The quality of the materials on the cabin is stunning. Like, the dashboard is beautiful, the little air vents are really gorgeous actually. It's annoying how nice it is inside because it makes you get into any other car and think it's all a bit crap. We headed out of the pits and everything was left in automatic. I'm not a racing driver, I'm not Chris Harris either, so I thought probably a good idea if I just get used to the car, get used to the track. As we started to build up more and more speed, the gearbox was changing down at the same times that I would change down if I was in control of the paddles. It just knew what to do, which is a really weird feeling, because in my head I thought, well, it won't be able to deal with it. Like, the best way, surely, of getting around the track quickly is to do it with the paddles. And yet, it just knew when to change gear. It was changing up. The changes of the gearbox are super fast, even if you're just in like the standard automatic mode. They're really good, really fast. And the down changes, when you're braking really hard from sort of like 140, it's changing down at the time that you would with the paddles. It's a really weird sensation. It shows you just how well developed this car is. We can change gear, perfect timing. Once I got used to the track a little bit, we decided to put everything up to like the full AMG mode. So the suspension was harder, the steering was its kind of sharpest if you like, and so was the throttle. And it's just otherworldly fast. The engine does not feel turbocharged. That's a massive compliment. It's a twin turbocharged 4-litre V8 and yet it does not feel turbocharged. The throttle response is super fast and super sharp, and it just keeps pulling and pulling and pulling. Very quickly, you kind of look down at the speedo, if you're brave enough to look down at the speedo, and you're doing 140 miles an hour, 150. Also, if you're worried that turbochargers would make the engine sound any worse, like some cars, the turbochargers just draw in all the noise that the engine might make. This sounds really good. It sounds good from the outside, the exhaust is great. And on the inside, it just makes a good noise. I was surprised actually, I expected it to sound more turbocharged than it is. The brakes are hugely powerful. As I said, doing big speeds and you're coming down, trying to stop from like 150, they're very powerful. They will stop you. The back end starts to move around a little bit if you come on the brakes and you've got a bit of an angle on the steering, but it's just so much braking performance. It's kind of alarming. If the accelerative force, scares you a little bit, the braking force will do just the same. It will pull your face off. The gearbox, just as it was fast in automatic mode, in manual mode it's equally as fast, if not faster, and the response through the paddles as well is really good. I remember driving a C63, one of the old ones, probably 4 or 5 years ago, and one of the biggest letdowns was the gearbox, because when you pull a gear paddle to change down, it wouldn't do it when you want it to. The up changes were fast enough, and the physical change of the gears was quick, but there was a delay between you touching a paddle and something actually happening. There isn't that problem in the GTS. When you pull a paddle, it does exactly what you want it to there and then. It doesn't think about it, doesn't wait, there's no delay, it just does it. It's a really impressive gearbox, and because you're doing it yourself, it's good fun. I enjoyed it a lot. The steering is the steering system from the SLS, so it's a hydraulic setup rather than an electric setup. And again, it's really good. I don't know what I was expecting really, to say that everything would be bad. I don't know, because it isn't. The steering is tremendous. It's just got a good weighting and a good amount of feel. I don't like using the word feel necessarily because it's very difficult for me to communicate what that means, but you get a good idea of what the car's doing and what the tyres are doing and what might happen, and when you're pushing too hard, basically you can start to feel that coming back through the wheel. The A45's got a 2 litre 4-cylinder turbocharged engine, and it's got 380 brake horsepower, 60 in 4.2 seconds, and the top speed limited to 155. I think you can take the limiter off, but you have to pay Mercedes 2 or 3 grand to do that, basically. Again, for the first few laps we left everything in automatic, so just to get used to the car, get used to the size, the performance and so on, and the grip. Then after that we just turned everything back up to AMG and got on with the lap. The gearbox is good, not as good as the GTS. It's understandable really, because it's like a third of the price almost. There's a slight delay on the way down. Other than that, actually, the gear changes are still, the actual physical change is quick. It's very, very fast. When you accelerate full throttle as well, I don't know what it is that does it, but there's a huge crack from the exhaust. It sounds fantastic, and it's quite hilarious actually. It's a hatchback that's making gunshot noises as you accelerate. It's good fun. Perhaps my brain was still in the GTS, so it didn't feel as fast as it is, but there's no denying how effective it is. I can imagine if you were living, on a road somewhere in the UK and the roads were poor surface and it was wet or damp or whatever, this thing would be a weapon. I know it's almost a cliche to say that a car could keep up with something that's 4 or 5 times its price, but in reality it could. There's so much grip from the tyres and from the all-wheel drive system as well that you could just eat up roads at such a ridiculous rate. It doesn't encourage you to drive faster and faster. It's not perhaps a car that would reward you in the same way that something like a Megane Renault Sport would, because there's so much tech in it and so much grip. It's not a very driver-involved car, it's more a car that's built to be capable. So again, that comes down to what kind of hatchback you want. Do you want something that's just very, very capable, or do you want something that's perhaps less capable and would extract less lap time or would be less fast on the road, but is more involving to drive? And again, as with the GTS, the interior is really lovely. Everything's really well put together. It feels solid. The seats were great. And on the outside, personally, I don't think you need the carbon fibre spoiler on the back or the carbon fibre splitter bits or the little fins. I don't think that's necessary. I quite like the idea that people, again, don't know what the car can do. But, if you want a carbon fibre wing and you want to pay a few extra £1,000 for it, fair enough. In the end, I didn't spend a huge amount of time in the GTS or the A45, not really. It's not like I was going around the track for a day. But there was enough time for me to feel the character of the car and what they could do. The A45 is really impressive, and if you're willing to pay 10 grand more than something like a Type R to have a more capable car, fair enough, you do that. It's not going to reward you in the same way. You do feel less involved in the experience, but it is a very, very fast, capable car. If you got it, you'd really enjoy it. It wouldn't make you smile every day, but at times when other people would be struggling because of the conditions, you could just blast past them. The GTS, on the other hand, I really, really enjoyed. I would quite like to own one day. I suppose it's a foregone conclusion really, because it's a crazy fast car, but I really enjoyed it. And it's kind of annoying as well, because in every second or third gear corner, as I was coming out of the corner, I could see the traction control light flickering on and off. So obviously it's got a lot more performance than I perhaps experienced, and I probably would have to be Chris Harris to get the most out of it, but I really enjoyed it. I would love to drive one on the road or have one for a year or two, because it's just so fast, and I got a glimpse of that, and now I want a bit more of it.